Hey guys, today we're going to talk about nozzle sizes and different paint guns essentially. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'm going to bring this closer to you, hang on a sec. So within a paint gun, you have a few essential components. A nozzle, which is a hole there, a needle, which fits into the nozzle and seals, and then behind that you have the spring and then the stop against which the spring presses. So when you pull the trigger, it pulls the nozzle back against that spring, and that's how you control the flow of paint, the flow of your material. It's either sealed all the way in there, or as it pulls back you get more and more paint. Okay? So that's the basic concept we're looking at. Now, nozzle sizes come in, nozzles come in a variety of sizes essentially, and the needles are designed to fit with those. So, different nozzle sizes have different applications. We'll start with the big ones. For example, a 1.8 millimeter nozzle. Some people like to use that for spraying primer. I personally prefer to go with something along 1.5, 1.6. 1.8 is fine, you just have to do it quickly. That is what I would use for a sanding sealer, for example, so that I don't have to reduce it. Your general rule of thumb is going to be that the thicker your material is, the larger the nozzle size is required for it. And there's kind of an exception to that with metal flakes and pearlescent paints. Metal flakes, you're going to want to pass through a larger nozzle like a 1.8 or something along those lines so that they don't get jammed up in there. If you try and put something like that through one of these guys with a 1 millimeter nozzle, it's just going to get stuck, it won't go through. So those larger nozzle sizes are for things like primer and sanding sealer. Then when you get down into the 1.5 or 1.4 range, I like to use those for clear coat. My clear coat is fairly thick. Or even for example, this gun has a 1.5 nozzle in it. It comes in 1.3, 1.5, and 1.7. I like to use this 1.5 for lacquer. I know that seems odd because I spray my lacquer fairly thin, but it puts out a lot of material, has a nice wide fan, and allows me to move very quickly, which is something that I like doing when I'm working with lacquer. Then for the acrylics that I use, I get a few people asking me what nozzle size to use on that. They recommend that you use either a 1.0 for your small guns or a 0.8, which is quite small. And for the larger guns, they recommend typically a 1.2. I use a 1.3. Part of the reason for that being that I like to set up a wider fan pattern than they typically use. And the other reason being that I really can't find a 1.2 except in some very expensive Iwata and Seta guns, which are a little out of my price range. I don't have $700 for that at the moment. So for these things, yeah, you can spray your urethanes and your typical acrylics through a 1.3 or a 1.0 or anything like that. And when you get into the thicker materials like a catalyzed clear coat, you're going to want to go up preferably to something between a 1.3 and a 1.5, even higher than that depending on how you spray, how quickly you move. The larger nozzles will allow you to put out more material faster. So just like in that video I did where I showed how to get an even coat with spray cans, and we saw how the amount of material that you're putting out is dependent on how fast you're going, etc., etc. You will need to compensate for your nozzle size with the way that you paint as well. Now the same thing applies to airbrushes to a degree. They range from, my largest one is a 0.5 millimeter, and my smallest is a 0.15. Okay? Now for the larger ones, I can shoot actually light pearls and metallic paints through that without any difficulty, and I can cover large areas quickly. And when you get into the smaller ones, they are not good for that at all. Very small spray patterns. However, you can get extremely fine detail with them. 0.15 nozzle, if I were better, which I'm not, I would be able to add eyelashes onto a photograph with that. You know, if, like, you can make a pencil thin, hair thin line. Should be able to put several stripes on the edge of a penny. I can't, like I said. I'm not excellent at detail work, but there are different purposes for all of those as well. Your standard gravity-fed airbrush, you're looking at around a 0.35, which is a very good multi-purpose size. And if you're doing something like t-shirts and you like going quickly and using siphon-fed brushes, something from a 0.35 to a 0.5 will be very suitable for you. So I hope that this information was helpful. If you have any more questions on this topic, let me know. One other thing, I had someone ask me if they can paint a guitar entirely with an airbrush, and yeah, you can, but you won't be able to clear coat it with an airbrush. All right, you could, but it's really not going to go well for you. So if you're planning on painting a guitar from start to finish, you're going to want a paint gun, or you can paint it with an airbrush and then use a spray can and aerosol lacquer over top, or you can just have it professionally clear coated. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any other questions, let me know. Have a good one, everyone.